Venetia, I'm really so happy to talk to you today, for she can. Tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm a writer. I write novels. My latest novel is Dreamtime, which is this, and it is the story of an American woman's journey to find the father who abandoned her, a Marine in Okinawa. It's set in the near future when climate change and saber rattling between the US and China have intensified. Sea levels are rising, commercial aviation is about to be banned, and anything can be justified in the face of climate migration and impending war.
Incredible, Venetia. I really can't wait to read it, and I am so sorry that I haven't managed to read it before our chat.
No, I should have sent you a copy.
Yeah, I have a copy. Tell us a little how you got to where you are today. So, how did you get to write Dream Time? And it came out last year. I think we'll put a link in your bio to purchase the book. Tell us a little what your journey was.
Well, there's the longer arc of spending your life wanting to write stories and trying to justify that, trying to arrange your life so that that's possible, which involved basically a lot of experimental writing, finding out what worked and what didn't, and exploration, I suppose, of ideas and people and places. And I do a lot of private tutoring, which sends me to different countries often and unlocks new cultures and experiences and interests while also leaving me time to write. So it's pretty much the perfect sort of dual career for a writer, I would say. In terms of Dreamtime, I've been wanting to go to Japan for ages, like really ages. And about 10 years ago, I was all set to go, and then a bizarre online stalking incident prevented that from happening. And I abandoned the book I was writing at the time about Japan and turned it into a novel about stalking, which was really bad, and just another one of those necessary experiments that you eventually realize needs to go in the bin and not into the lives of others. Anyway, I finally did make it to Japan, and I was always excited about Okinawa, the island chain in the south of the ancient Ryukyu kingdom. It's beautiful and deadly, and sometimes people call it the Hawaii of Japan, but I wasn't really prepared for what I found there, which was really an island devastated by colonization, first by Japan and secondly by American military bases, of which there are an obscene number. It's hard to get an exact number because there's so much secrecy shrouding it, but estimates range between 28 and 40 military bases on this tiny island, this tiny, beautiful tropical island. And I wanted to write about climate change because islands are sort of on the front line of the threat. But when an island is not in control of its own destiny, but is at the mercy of other forces, then it's so much worse. When military bases are willfully digging up the seabeds and helping the extinction of the sacred dugong along and poisoning the water with chemicals from firefighting on the bases and just endless stuff that they can just get away with. It enraged me, and it should enrage everyone. And I wanted to direct people in the West who haven't heard about Okinawa towards it, and maybe more authentic voices than mine.
I love that, Venetia, and thank you for talking about it. Thank you for writing about it. We need many more people doing exactly that service to the planet that we live on. Tell us a little bit, Venetia, how did you, so you obviously went to school, what did you study? How did you become a writer, and when did you know you're going to become a writer?
Always. I think it's a sort of character defect that I've always needed to write stories. I always wanted to write stories. I always have written stories. Yeah, I did go to university and I studied classics there. So more stories, basically, ancient stories and myths and plays and poetry, and that was well, that opened up new worlds as well. And I did a literature degree at some point after that. There was a bit of a break in between when I attempted to emigrate to China, where I thought I could write a novel and tutor, and I could, but I couldn't balance the two so well there, unfortunately. I also thought it would be really great to be paid to write in the magazine world, and so tried my hand there, but discovered while I was there that mostly the people who write do it freelance. So, you know, the people in the building are not the people who are writing. They're the people who are, well, they're doing various things, none of which I was any good at. I'm really, really, really not cut out for office life, it turns out. So that sort of, that empowered me to go my own way, really.
So the tutoring
Which is quite,
gives you the freedom to do the writing that you want to do.
yes, and it keeps you in the realm of literature, always having to read new things because people are studying different things, and also always having new experiences, which I like. I don't like routine. I like projects and well, just being taken to a new place is the thing that really thrills me most, you know, just sort of feeling like a child again, your eyes on stalks, kind of just amazed by sort of sensory overload and all the ideas to uncover and the sort of hidden side of things.
Venetia, what is your inner motor? What is your motivator? What is your main motivator to write?
Exploring whatever I can, whether that's mentally or physically. But also, I think I have an overactive imagination, and that's always needed exorcising maybe, but I mean exercising. Like, you use it or it uses you, and it can use you in ways that sort of tend towards anxiety, towards what ifs, towards nightmares. But those what ifs can be extremely useful if you direct it towards creativity, and that is very exciting to me. I love using my imagination and creativity. But I suppose my motivating force with Dreamtime was more flagrant injustice, and the idea that voices are not being heard. And that was a delicate question, because whose voice should be heard? Not mine, I reckon. But I see myself as a sort of conduit towards seeking out people who maybe haven't been allowed to shout so loudly. It's not very easy to shout loudly in Okinawa, though there are, you know, constant protests and elderly people rowing out to try and stop new military bases being built in the middle of the sea. But I don't know how many of those voices are reaching the West.
Thank you, Venetia. I think your voice is very important. And I think what you just said is really incredible, where you use a gift that you've been given, a talent, which can also be a curse at times, and you turn it into a power. So thank you for mentioning that, because I think many girls listening will see themselves in that, and it will resonate. Definitely resonates with me. So thank you for mentioning that. What do you think is your superpower, Venetia?
Well, I have incredibly fast-growing nails, but that's probably not what you mean. I mean, you'd never seen anything like it, so fast. But yeah, it's probably the dodgy imagination again, and also a sort of seemingly limitless capacity to wander about places by myself, constantly entranced. which I think of it as a sort of moving meditation almost, where you can be like a ghost and just watch and weave and learn and sort of soak it up, and then it's like food for your imagination, I suppose. That's can that be considered a superpower? Limitless
Definitely.
exploring.
Definitely. And thank you for saying that. I think it's beautiful. It gives me immediately this view of the spider, you know, forming her web. That's exactly what you do. And then you turn it into your writing. I think that's beautiful. Venetia, what would your top tips be for other women your age? What would you tell them?
I would say write endlessly. Like, it's the practice of writing that teaches you how to do it, that teaches you, you know, what your voice is. I always feel like there's a certain sort of, that after a certain number of words, the good stuff comes. It's almost like a sort of rite of passage. So there's that. I'd say don't write what you think publishers want, because it changes all the time. And as soon as there's a big hit, they just want everything that's like that. And then that changes, and you can't second guess it. You can only do what you are going to write well, the story that you can tell. And you can learn to write that well by writing. That was something else. No, it's gone.
Maybe you think of it in the next couple of minutes. Venetia, thank you for saying that. I think authenticity, thank God, has a renewed place in the world now. And I'm so thankful you mentioned that, because really it is so important for all of us to practice that more. Venetia, my last question would be, what are your plans and dreams for your future? What is there in store for you?
Well, I'm working on a third novel. It's called Elara, but that's really the only detail I feel sort of safe to divulge, because I don't know. I think it needs to be locked up inside me, like a particularly unpleasant pregnancy, and none of the energy can be dissipated by talking to people about it. Because maybe when something's not established enough as well, it's hard to, it vanishes once you try to pin it down in speech. It's more sort of nebulous than that. So there's that. I've just moved to the country, which is a new sort of opening up of life. I'd like to go back to Japan. I was meant to go to Okinawa soon, but the Japanese borders are still shut. These are really my selfish plans. I mean, obviously, on a wider level. Now I sound like a beauty queen. I want world peace. I want, action on climate change. I want the world to wake up to all the various hideous injustices that are going on. And I did remember the other top tip that I thought of for writing, which I wish I'd known. And actually, it's probably what all parents try to tell you. And it's true, is that, well, they try to tell you it, but they don't realize how it actually helps. The don't give up the day job idea is vital, because once you put the pressure of making money on your writing, that is the enemy of writing. It's the enemy of sort of the free-form, playful, creative nature that you need, I think, for just to write anything at all. Otherwise, if the internal editor comes in too quickly, if the voice that says this is not going to make money ever, this is not going to support you, and if you can't do this, then you're going to have to rethink your whole life and find something else to do. If you can just remove that external pressure from yourself and find a way of making money, legal preferably, then I think that really helps. I wouldn't want anyone to feel that kind of awful pressure of like it all stands or fails on this page, and if it doesn't work, then that's not how writing works. You need to be able to make mistakes. You need to be able to give yourself permission to write badly, and you need to trust that critical part of you the crippling self-doubt that could really stop you working now will be very useful down the line, and we'll be able to turn this horrible piece of doggerel into something fabulous.
Amazing, Venetia. Thank you for adding that on. I think that's very powerful what you just said, and I think uh, it's the philosophy of many really good writers, and then it becomes a full-time job. So thank you so much for talking to us today, Venetia. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.